everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're looking at Season 4 of the Bleach anime, and this time we're covering the Bount Arc.
Which
is not considered a good arc by fans. Didn't even know that till recently.
Oh. But after leaving Soul Society, would you believe that trouble starts as soon as Ichigo returns? Mysterious beings called Bounts, which are really vampires,
pretty much,
spoiler, start to take human souls to keep their own immortality.
Yes, and before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and we'll pause videos.
Absolutely. But I do want to give them credit for tricking us, calling them Bounts and finding out they're vampires. It reminds me of that show that was on Fox.
Yes.
That we didn't know what the heck they were.
It was like I think it was Extant, right?
Yeah,
Extant.
No, that was Extant. That was Halle Berry and Aliens.
Oh no, it was
with Paul Gosselaar.
Shoot, it's not the Event. Oh heck, I'm not sure what the name
was.
But
whatever it was on Fox, based on a book series, and you didn't know what they were, and then they ended up being vampires yet again, but in a fresh new way.
Right.
And for me, this is how this started, because there was no way to figure out they were vampires when we were first watching this arc.
Right. So apparently, as soon as Ichigo comes back, like maybe a day,
and we were like, okay, it's gonna get back to normal. We're gonna have antics and fun-filled adventures.
And then the next thing you know, Orihime is kidnapped, and it's like, oh, you just got back, and now someone else wants to screw with you.
And then they also kidnapped Sato Chad.
Yes, the name's not Chad.
And you're like, oh my gosh. And then it gets really, really dark, and the captors force them to go through these, I don't want to say games, but they're games to them. They force them to go through these games and to complete these challenges in a set amount of time, so that Orihime and Chad Sato wouldn't be injured or killed.
Right. And ironically, Mama has said that it looked like they were referencing an American movie, Samuel Jackson, where each time they had to get to a certain place, they would be called on a payphone or someone else's phone. They would somehow know everyone's number.
It was called 16 Blocks. It took me a long time until just now to remember. It was called 16 Blocks, and it was Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis.
Okay. So it looks like this show was referencing that as part of the game, which is actually hilarious. You see what they watch. And the reason why it kind of dragged on a little bit for us is because for a time, just for this part of the arc, it felt like it went on a little long because you were waiting for them to get there, finish the game, get them, and it just, every time you thought it was over, oh, to be continued, gotta keep going, oh, to be continued, gotta keep going, which you can kind of feel why they'll be like, oh, just get over with.
Right.
And actually learned recently, like not too long before we started recording, that this is not in a manga arc. This is an anime only arc, and it is considered filler. And it's not popular by fans because it has something that has nothing to do with the manga.
Well, we can say by fans who are familiar with the story itself, because we're watching it for the first time. It is not our favorite, but I won't say that I dislike it. I found it to be interesting. I think the leader, I just want him gone. But it has been interesting because we also got to see more of Uryu's story, his backstory. And of course, now that he's returned, we know that he lost his powers. And now we're seeing how he handles that, not being able to do what he was able to do before.
Yeah, it's Quincy powers, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I said, we're going to use the Quincy, but it's his powers. And we see him encounter a woman who at first, you kind of tricked into thinking maybe his mom, but she ends up,
sis or something.
Right, not being. But you see him wanting to be more active and to have more input, even though he knows his Quincy powers are gone. And then it just builds up more and more by the end of the season. Right. So I think it was interesting for that reason, and for the introduction of 3 more little stuffed animal characters that are used to hold the...
Not the Zanpakuto, the little candy thing that they put in them when they're when they're
we
on
know
their
you know
bodies.
Phoenix, yes.
Whatever it's called.
And they're just as hilarious as the first one.
Gets Khan, yeah.
Yes,
and he gets pissed.
Ichigo.
And he gets pissed because he doesn't want competition.
That helps Ichigo out, yeah.
Right.
So I think for those two reasons, I found it to be very interesting. And third, we see the return of a lot of the members of the Soul Society. You thought they were gone.
Right.
But no, they start coming back one by one to help because they know that the Earth is in trouble. And we get to see Rukia be vulnerable in a different way. We saw her vulnerable in one way where, you know, she was locked away and she was scheduled to be executed. But now you see her actually in a couple of episodes being taken over by a doll that's created by one of the Bounts, and she's struggling and fighting to gain control, but she doesn't.
Right.
And you see her vulnerable in a different way, and then you see Orihime grow as a character, not only as a character but also in her powers. I liked this season for those reasons, and some more. So I know maybe I know some fans don't like it, but I had reasons that I did like it.
Yeah, there's lots of good things that happen in there. Like I said, I was just surprised to learn that people didn't like it. I just wanted to confirm, was this an manga arc adapter, or was it anime only? It's anime only. That just became an extra thing I learned.
So for those of you who have watched season 4 and the rest of the Bleach series, let us know in the comments below why this is not a favorite season for you, if that's the case. Give us a little more information, since you have completed the series, of why this stands out as one of the least favorite.
Right. And a lot more goofy stuff does happen in this season. Like, they do lack the music sometimes for some reason. We don't get why, but they end up adding it back later. But they do have a lot more comical scenes, especially when it has the little stuffed animals.
Yes.
Or every time Khan just opens his mouth, there's something comical, and they want him to shut up, and they step on his head like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Hi, Rukia.
And then he stomps on his head.
Injured on then, yeah.
And then it's shut up. And another part is that when they have the openings, the new openings, half the time looks like they're doing a boy band cover, or they're about to start a band. It's like, are they a band now? Why is this the opening? It's nothing to do with the Bounts or anything.
Maybe it's their tribute to J-pop.
Oh, it's like, this has nothing to do with the arc. What is this?
Another thing I like about this particular season is, again, we continue to see Ichigo grow.
Right.
Every season we've seen him grow and develop as a character, and as a Reaper. And in here it's no different. So there's just so many things that I do like about the season that helps me to grow to become an even bigger fan of Bleach.
Right. And like I said, soon
including the endings and the excerpts that appear after the ending.
Oh yeah,
with Khan doing his little dance, his funky dance, and then Golden.
Yeah, Golden.
So.
Yeah. And yeah, there's still lots of great stuff that happens in here. There were a few times where we did feel like, okay, can they finish this part? Because it would be 20 minutes and on the same thing, and another 20 minutes on the same thing. That happened maybe once or twice, but it didn't feel like the entire arc was just going on for eternity. It just felt like some things needed to move on a little faster instead of just going through the same thing and one battle at a time every 5 episodes.
Now, one thing that I did find particularly irritating is another Soul Reaper traitor.
Yes.
You know, not just Ison and the one who helped him get away, but now you got another jackass who's also a traitor and working with the vampires. And it's like, what on earth did they do to you so badly or didn't give you that you needed, that your parents didn't, or some other problem that you would join in with these guys? It's like, that I can agree with. That part could have just not been in here.
Right.
It's like, I just want this guy gone too. I just want him to go away because he's irritating.
Right. And speaking of Soul Society, like you mentioned, they appear again. A few of them actually start coming to Earth, and it's like, we just spent like 3 arcs getting away from you, and now you gonna come to Earth, and it's like, I just left.
But the good thing is now they come to help, and now like Ichigo and Orihime and Ryu and Chad Sato.
Her name's not Chad.
Which was different, you know, than before. Now they respect them. Now they like them. Now they're happy to help them. And they go out of their way to help keep them alive and to help them be successful in taking down the enemies.
Right.
So that's a great change. And you've got, also now that you brought them up, you have them in this particular arc, which is maybe something the fans don't like as well, where some of the Reapers are seen as being weak, and which is unbelievable after you've seen the past 3 seasons, especially the one that takes place in Reaper Heaven. That's not what it's called.
There's a Soul Society?
Yes, a Soul Society. A Soul Society. You see how badass they've been, and then suddenly they're back here on Earth, and these Bounts are beating them, and it doesn't make sense when you've seen what they're capable of in the season prior.
Right.
So that's kind of a little not, I would say not canon, doesn't make sense in the telling of the story itself. And
I would say the best part about it would be when Renji came there. He and she were constantly at each other for some reason. It's like, why are you constantly bickering? And they never found out why. And at one point he lies and said, "Oh, that's his brother." First I thought it was his old uncle, and he said, "But I'm not that old." And it's it's the brother, and then that was it. And he wouldn't stop coming to the school, and they thought Ichigo and him were like something else. As brothers, it's like the Hitachi twins pretend to be, and they were like, "Oh, this is some forbidden thing, right?" And it's like, no! It's like, why would you think that? It's funny because he's always there, and I guess Ichigo was getting tired of him. Even when there's a Soul Society, he was getting tired of him. And then he came here, and he looked like Ichigo was like on edge for half this season. Like, anything could trigger him. Say one wrong thing, do one thing annoying, and he would freak out.
Right.
Like, it's like, is he okay? He's just like on the edge all of a sudden.
And the most exciting thing we learned about Renji is who voices him. Yes. And it took us 4 seasons to find it out, but we were like, ah!
Yes, it's Wally Wingard, aka Wild Tiger.
So that was really exciting for us. And it was so hilarious as we were watching it. And Rascal said, "Wait a minute, he sounds familiar." And she looked it up. She's like, "You're never going to believe who's doing it."
Yes.
So that was a nice reveal. That was fun. Sorry it took us 4 seasons to find out, but that was one of the best things about the season.
Right.
Is learning that he's in here voicing Renji.
And I found out that's actually his second most famous role. So I was like, wow. So it means that's one of 2 characters he's most known for.
So now we've began season 5, and we see that it's continuing on this Bount story.
Right. After you find out who they really are.
Right. So we're excited to complete that and finish and talk with you discuss that with you as well.
Right.
Talk with you about that.
Well, of course. Well, there is one part we'll bring up that we'll definitely get into detail when we finish and cover season 5. Is that they have this moment in the first episode, and of course they bring the little stuffed animals with them, you know, because they can still use their powers within their little forms.
Right.
So there was this point where they wanted to get a Soul Society first before the Bounts, and I think it's when some of them were together before they had to split up, and Rukia and Ichigo were talking. I can't forget about what, but then the littlest one that looks like a little chicken in a hood, like a little Riding Hood but blue.
The girl.
She gets upset. It's like, "Stop it! You I know what's happening here. You're just supposed to be friends." And the little girl like, "What are you talking about?" Right. It's like, what?
And she's jealous.
I've seen this before.
She's like Pikachu. Because he carries her around on his back and he cuddles her, and she's like, it's like Ash and Pikachu, and all of a sudden she's jealous.
Right.
But I have to say the 3 of them are also very, very interesting characters, and of course they are brought out by Urahara. But they are interesting and they're fun, and you get to see, as you mentioned, that they do have powers and how powerful some of them are. Like, forgive me, I don't remember the name of the one who can transport in and out.
Yeah.
And he's really powerful. And he reminds me a lot of Tamaki on My Hero Academia. He seems to be very shy. And can you do it? I don't know. And then he does it. So he reminds me of that character.
Right.
But so far for me, I've liked the season. There are things I haven't liked, but overall, I think this has been an interesting season for us to watch.
Yes.
And we can't wait to complete season 5.
Yes, because this took us a little bit to finish because we were finishing some other shows and actually ended up removing a lot of things out of our list. We caught up with so much.
Definitely.
So now that we have finished those things, now we can get into season 5 and then wait for the next seasons that hopefully
actually we've been watching movies after season 5. Yes.
Because the only thing we've seen is the live action movie. Kind of wish we hadn't. So now I can't wait for the other seasons to be available because we got how many left? Because there's 5, 12, 11, 10, 9, 7 left. 7 seasons left.
So, if you've seen Bleach 4, season 4 I should say, let us know what you think in the comments below.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
On Ichigo!
So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Masculine Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.